I've learned that the best founders are always selling.
Welcome to the GTM Vault podcast, hosted by Rick Koleta. We uncover the strategies, the pivots, and the breakthroughs, turning startups into giants. Let's crack, open the vault, and find out how.
Welcome back to the GTM Vault, where we decode the fastest growing go-to-market systems in B2B. Today's guest is Michael Saruggia, the #1 Clay GTM advisor in the world, and the architect behind a new breed of revenue operator, the GTM Engineer. Michael has trained over 600 operators, built enterprise workflows for scaleups, and fast enterprise companies. In this episode, we dive into what a GTM engineer actually is and why every founder should care, how Clay is powering the next wave of outbound workflow orchestration and RevOps, what pipeline creation looks like in a post-playbook world. If you're building, selling, or scaling anything in B2B, this is one you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the basics. What is a GTM engineer and why is the role exploding right now?
Hey, Rick, thanks so much for the introduction, first of all. And go-to-market engineer, actually, I guess, is the term that now it means a lot of things, I guess, but I think is that professional combines different AI go-to-market tools, put them together, and basically augment what is a company workforce so that you can basically produce more with less, and you can increase the productivity of the company. And ultimately, I guess more revenue per employee, more EBITDA. This is their real definition. Maybe it's a definition that nobody's using, but at the end of the day, the real outcome, the real end goal, at least on my point of view, is really this. What does it mean? I think we can basically bring this definition of more revenue per employee, and it can actually make sense in every function of the organization, right? For example, in outbound, it means that instead of having 5 SDRs, maybe you have a couple but they are more efficient, right? With better data, with better processes, with greater number of conversations per day. In inbound, it means having more traffic, better traffic, having a perfect routing to the sales department. In HR, it means having few HR reps that are working faster, that are more efficient, and ultimately can actually drive less expensive. Lexus, because there's a lot of tools inside of a company that are duplicated, and with Clay, you can actually unify all of them in one. Secondly, you can drive actually more revenue because you can take the processes that are already inside of an organization and scale them with less people and increasing revenue, basically. This is what GTM Engineer is, basically.
How did your journey with Clay begin and what made you double down on this ecosystem so early?
Sure. Everything started when I got my first job in tech. I was working in a startup, a SaaS in Italy. I'm Italian, by the way. And I was working my 9 to 5 there. Actually, it was way more than 9 to 5. I don't even know why I call it like that. So at the beginning of a company, of course, when you are in marketing, you're doing a little bit of marketing, a little bit of sales, a little bit of everything, like in every little startup, I guess. And even if at that time it was like 100% impossible to actually sell what we were building, but at least I had the freedom to put together a lot of the pieces that I'm using right now. So I started using a little bit of Smart Lead. I was using a little bit of sales automations. I put together some pieces. I got confidence in myself and I was like, wow, this really, really works, right? And I got to a point where I was basically producing more than the rest of the sales team and I was alone. So definitely there was something there. Now maybe it's called the GTM engineering. Back in the days, it was just me putting things together and try to figure out how to make things work. After that, basically what happened is that, of course, I got confidence. I was super excited. It was working. And at that point, I said, okay, by the fact that I don't really like this 9 to 5, I'm very limited from the choices of my boss. I'm very limited. There are processes. I can do whatever I want. I can put inside the best tech stack. I feel really like in a cage, basically. So I said, okay, let's try, let's jump. And I started my very little outbound consultants. I changed a little bit tech stack. Back in the days, Clay wasn't a thing, right? Because it was a little bit early. or maybe it was very small from outbound. Then I transitioned into Clay. Then I positioned 100% into Clay. That, in my opinion, is probably the only real uh, go-to-market engineering software, but in general, one of the fastest growing go-to-market technologies in the world. Not outbound, not cold email among any department of go-to-market. And I think it will become as big as HubSpot or Salesforce. I truly believe that.
And you've trained over 600 Clay operators. What's the best way to approach Clay?
For a company or for an individual? Because I think it's very different, and I will maybe give you both of the explanations. For a company, so first of all, I guess for some reasons, people really associate Clay with outbound and cold emails. Okay, Clay is not cold email, is not an outbound tools. So it's not something that is extremely useful for startups or seed stage startups or small companies only. Yeah, it's useful even for them because they are small, they have to grow fast. And when you are small with limited budget, you don't have many other channels to leverage. But I even believe that when a company grows and it go past the 50 mil in revenue, Clay, it's even more interesting because you have way more assets where you can extrapolate business value, coordinate, and activate the sales department to actually make it more efficient. To start, what I would do, especially in a big company environment, I would assess what are the highest ROI use cases where you can have an impact in the organization faster. And you have to be good at finding them, assess them, put them into a timeline, start from the first one, and show to leadership with real values and KPIs that you are actually driving value. Okay. And it really depends from company to company, I guess, because in some companies, some use case is better, and other companies, another use case is better. So you have to be good. And you really have to have like very good knowledge, business knowledge in general, and expertise in RevOps in general to actually understand this. And then you have to speak the language of decision makers. This for a company level, right? For a personal, individual practitioner level, basically, I don't know how to call this, the best way is to practice. The best way is go to clayoperator.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and copy my videos. So start with an account, open Clay, buy the Explorer plan, connect some APIs, and start building something. The first would be open my videos, put your screen here, put on the other monitor or in another tab like the YouTube video, and just copy what I am doing. Copy for 3 hours, for 4 hours, 5 hours, and you will get good. And then try to apply it to your day job. Try to apply it to your side hustle. Maybe if you need someone, get a mentor so you can move faster and you can make money faster. But it's the practice that actually move the needle, I would say.
And in your view, how does GTM engineering differ from traditional RevOps or sales ops?
Yeah, actually, it depends where you position it. And I think it's the evolution of RevOps, and it will take the place of RevOps. The real difference is this. So when I talk with RevOps people, they are good, but most of the times they are far from a marketing and sales acumen. They are good with systems, with data. They are very technical, but they don't speak the copy language. They don't speak the revenue language. They don't speak a language of and really put themselves in the shoes of salespeople. While go-to-market engineering, I think, is more broader. You use different tools, especially positioned into Clay. But Clay, yes, you can activate the sales department, but you can even connect automation tools where you have to write the copy, where you have to test what generate pipeline, where you have to test how to get those meetings, where you really have to work one-on-one with the sales people. It's an overlapping sometimes an evolution with AI and more a better eye on revenue, I guess. But this is how I would position it, and this is how I see it in the ecosystem.
And what are the core skills every GTM engineer needs to master in 2025 and beyond?
Technical and business one, basically. So technical, Clay first. There's not really another competitor, at least at that level. Then Clay, of course, is a lot of things. Can be Clay, outbound deliverability, messaging, other tools connected to Clay. This is the technical one, basically. Maybe connect a little bit of APIs, webhooks, HTTP APIs. It's pretty cool if you know them. It's pretty fast to learn them. And on a business level, this is where the majority of people actually have a problem, because are a lot of guys that maybe they are very technical, but they are very, very stupid about business and systems. They like complexity. I don't like complexity, but they love complexity because they are technical people. So instead of building something that moves results, they build something technical because it's technical. And that's a problem. So on the business level, you have to understand that there are goals inside of an organization. Every organization is different. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you're making something complex. You have to drive pipeline. You have to drive KPIs. You have to save money. You have to drive more revenue. And there's a huge gap between what are today GTM engineers and what is the language of a chief revenue officer. If you put together like a chief revenue officer, maybe 40 plus years old, and a junior GTM engineer, 99% are junior. So you put them in the same room and they talk. They can't speak each other. And that's a problem because, of course, the growth comes from the collaboration between these two guys, but they are so far in the space that it's very tough. This is the real problem I see today.
How are modern GTM teams shifting their headcount strategy now that technical operators can replace full marketing or SDR teams?
Oh, yes, I don't think they can. It depends. Sometimes you can replace them. Sometimes you can drive better. You can drive automations basically. But what I believe is, okay, most of the times inside of an organization, you have too many salespeople, right? And you have too many people in general. And many of these are not reaching quota. Okay. And I don't know why, but there's the belief that the more salespeople you hire, the better revenue, the more revenue you will bring, which is true. But if you think about a unit economic profitability standpoint, it's a huge problem. Okay. So instead of hiring 5 SDRs, you can hire, or 5 AEs, you can hire 3 or 2, and you get a go-to-market engineer that brings more revenue per AE. So instead of having 5 AE, you have 2 that produce twice. So it's not really automating their job. It's just making the one that you already have way more efficient. How? It's very easy because let's say that you have 2 AEs. These 2 AEs don't have lists. These 2 AEs don't know who to prospect. They have bad sales data. They have zero signals. They have zero warm outbound. It's very difficult to actually, sales is difficult, right? It's difficult to actually crush that quota. But when you wake up, you have, okay, these 5 leads actually changed the job and they are past champions. Prioritize this. This is the phone number. Call them immediately. And then you have intent signals. So new company actually launched 3 new products. These are the decision maker. Call them with these kind of messaging. I just launched a cold email campaign. I had some replies. Start replying to them. They are open conversations. From inbound, I already connected your email and LinkedIn, so you can reach out to inbound leads immediately with extremely fast speed to lead. As you can see, these little details, when a salesperson, when he actually wakes up every morning, and he have a bunch of open opportunities instead of literally zero and a guesswork on where to go, it completely change every kind of pipeline KPI, from number of conversations per day, meetings, conversions, revenue. I start everything with the number of conversations you can actually have per day. This is your problem most of the times, right? So revenue generating activities.
Which Clay playbooks are currently delivering the highest ROI for your enterprise level clients?
Not necessarily enterprise. So ideally enterprise, but it's very difficult to work with enterprises. Ideally, I work with like scaleups, like 50 mil plus, maybe 100 mils sometimes. And the best are, so I have 12 that I put in a doc that I can mention like very fast. But of course, when you go inside of an organization, you will figure out that problems are very specific. So you can start from those 12, and from those 12, you can actually have very good idea on how to get the others. The playbooks are inbound led outbound, theme mapping, news led outbound, social signals, inbound playbook, outbound scale playbook, PLG and free signups, recruitment and HR, CRM playbook, conference playbook, new hires, promotions and open jobs, past champions playbook. From these, you can actually drive, if you're good at understanding the problems and in actually collaborating with multiple stakeholders inside of an organization to actually drive the main KPIs, which usually are more pipeline, more MQL to SQL conversions, more MQLs because maybe they have an enrichment problem and they can't become MQLs because they don't have enough data, more revenue ultimately, I guess, and especially more revenue per salesperson.
What are some common mistakes or over-engineered traps you see founders or GTM teams fall into when building automation?
Well, first, they do not start with the assets that they already have. I mean, everybody is hyper focused on cold outbound when, of course, is working less. Why you have to start with cold outbound if you have inbound, you have web traffic, you have maybe a net of partners? Start there. So basically, connect all your digital assets and leverage them in a way that can generate open conversation for salespeople and allow salespeople to have a list of people that are semi-warm so they can, instead of cold outbound, warm up outbound, basically. And of course, the bigger is an organization, but the most is possible, basically, because if you are talking with a small startup, they have nothing and there's nothing to do. That's why I usually say this usually works very well after a certain level of revenue.
Not to mention, I mean, the data enrichment component, right? If you don't have the right data infrastructure, then at the point you move on to more of a marketing-led GTM motion, nothing's going to work.
No, that's a huge problem. That is not something that maybe is very popular on LinkedIn, I guess, but let's say you're having a lot of marketing activities inside of a website because you're good with marketing, but data are incomplete, but you're getting free emails, but you're only getting the email. You're getting marketing activities, but they are not MQLs. They become MQLs when they have a lead scoring model. But the lead scoring model is not working because you don't have enough data. And if you ask more data on the front end, you basically have less marketing activities because you're adding friction. With Clay, you can actually solve this because with just from an email, you can get all the data that you want because from a B2B email, you get the LinkedIn profile. From the LinkedIn profile, you get all company information, all personal information from running ads to your job title to whatever you have in mind, and it's available online. And from that, you can actually turn them into MQLs and they have better data to actually be turned into SQL by the sales team.
What channels or signals will GTM engineers lean into more? Email, intent, data enrichment, or something else entirely?
Yeah. So basically, so signals are bullshit in general, right? Because they are like a button that vendors created to sell more data that are not accurate and that are very generic and standardized all over many industries. A real intent is something that comes from your domain knowledge. So it's not like open jobs. It's not like, or maybe sometimes yes, but usually it's not. Real intent is like you put together like your own data, maybe some proprietary data, maybe some very niche database, and you actually find real intent. For example, a client was selling POS systems to restaurants, okay? And we tracked Google News to actually get all the restaurants openings, turn them into a company name, into a company domain, into people, into decision maker, reaching out saying, cool that you opened this new cool restaurant in Miami, maybe you need a POS system. But as you can see, there's not a button inside Clay common room or a Sixth Sense where is open restaurants. But it starts from your brain saying, okay, let's really brainstorm how my industry actually works, and let's work backwards in turning that into signal data AI. Okay.
Love it. Yeah, definitely. What are some underrated Clay integrations or use cases most operators are sleeping on right now?
Yeah, inbound, not really integrations, but inbound is huge. Data management is huge. Everything that is not outbound because it's over an overflow of attention there basically. And yeah, cool. And that's it.
I want to finish off with one last question here on the future of GTM roles. Where do you see the GTM engineering movement going long term? Do you think every founder will eventually need one, on their team or become one themselves?
On themselves, not. They need someone. It really depends what kind of company you're running, but especially for companies that are 30 mil, 50 mil plus, do it. Is the best investment you can make.
If this episode lit a fire under you, go follow Michael and check out his Clay playbooks at clayoperator.com. And if you're building a GTM engine of your own, don't do it alone. Join 20,000 founders and revenue leaders inside GTM Vault at gtmvault.wiki, where we break down the strategies behind today's fastest growing startups. Subscribe, share, and we'll see you next week.
Cool, man. Thanks so much.
Tech founders and VCs, careers, lessons, GTM.